Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our webinar with Vodar tonight. Let me just introduce myself very quickly. My name is Yanis. I'm the media manager at within the communications department at Tennis Europe. Many of you may have seen me at some of the tournaments interviewing players or some of the web articles that we have online at the end of the week after some of the tournaments. As you know, Tennis Europe is one of the largest regional association underneath the ITF, and we have about 580 junior tour tournaments this year, 48 active member nations, and around 22,000 young players under 16, 14s, and 12s. So we have lots of players on our tour, and maybe 90% of Grand Slam champions have played our tour at some stage. So as we like to say, it's one of the our missions, shaping the champions of tomorrow. So just to let you know a little bit about today's webinar, the purpose mainly is to inform, educate, and also support players, coaches, and parents in their development. And with our partner, Vodar, we've prepared today's webinar, which is about raising resilient athletes for coaches and parents without a background in psychology. So without further ado, I'll introduce and hand over to the co-founder of Vodar, Karina.
Thank you so much, Yanis, for this opportunity, and welcome to everyone who are with us tonight. We expect actually a couple of hundreds of people to join this session, so it's amazing for this opportunity. My name is Karina, one of the founders of Vodar, and Vodar as a company exists in order to provide support, knowledge, and a community to all the parents and coaches who want to implement mental coaching in their training practice and want to support their juniors to become resilient athletes, but not only resilient people. So my role in the company is to bridge neuroscience, development psychology, and technology into one unified platform so that coaches and parents can get the best support they deserve. And actually, I'm going to use real quick this opportunity to share my screen with you and the presentation, because what we have in common with Tennis Europe and in our mission, we believe that coaches and parents can be the driving force behind a revolution, so they can spark a global shift in the way we support junior athletes and build not only champions, but resilient, self-aware, and healthy children. So I'm here today with my colleague, Radinella.
Hello, everyone. I'm the co-founder of Vodar, as Kari said. And also, I'm extremely happy to see so many people joining our webinar today, because this means that this topic is as important to you as it is important to us. And I'm not only talking as a mental coach, but I'm also talking as a parent, because I have a son. He is 6 years old, and he has been actively practicing tennis for 2 years already. And even though he's so small and so young, I can already see that he has some struggles, some setbacks, some challenges. There is some pressure. And I am wondering, I'm always asking these questions, whether I'm doing the right thing, whether I'm saying the right thing, whether I'm, applying the right approach. And I'm sure that a lot of you today can relate to this, whether coaches or parents, because we want to do the best for these kids in order to support them, in order to help them to become mentally healthy, mentally tough people who are going to be the next role models, hopefully one day. And yeah, I can assure you that by the end of this webinar, you're going to be equipped with a lot of practical tools, a lot of frameworks that you can use and apply immediately. And also a few words about me and my background, just to have the overall idea who is sitting in front of you today. I'm a accredited mental coach by the International Coaching Federation, and also I'm coming from the tennis industry. Have been part of the team of Dani Medvedev, on Jabor, Elina Svitolina, and I had the chance to witness firsthand the impact of mental coaching. And I would say with 100% confidence that mental coaching is a game changer when applied properly and early on. And let's dive deep into today's content, because we have a lot of things to share with you. I'm handing over now the conversation to Kari, and I will see you in a minute.
So we have a pretty intense program for today. We're going to talk about how to develop a healthy perspective on mental resilience, and how to use the parent, player, and coach-player relationship as a foundation of this process of building resilience. We're going to talk about the system that we should build around junior athletes in order to support them in their development. And we will also share with you a very practical workbook full with drills and exercises that you can do with your juniors. And also for the first time, and especially for the community of Tennis Europe, we will introduce the concept of Vodar Mind Labs. This is our digital community that we created and crafted especially for you to give you all the resources and support that you need for supporting your children. So quickly, the fundamentals and the basics. Mental coaching, in our understanding, is about training the mind in the same way we train the body, which means to do it in a very practical way, to include mental coaching as part of the training process on the court, which means to combine physical and mental training in one. Because it's not only neuroscience that says that's the best way to teach mental skills, it's the most fun way for children as well. But also mental coaching should be a process, not a one-off event. It has to have a long-term strategy, a long-term plan that goes together with the whole training plan. So this is something that has to be part of the training process for years, sometimes for juniors. And also, last but not least, we have to think about it as a system. So to have both the tools and different sources of information and knowledge, but also an alignment between all the adults in the system. Alignment between the coach, the parent, eventually even the teachers, all the family members, and all the adults who build this system around these juniors so that they can flourish in the best possible way. So this is how we see mental coaching, and this is the paradigm that we will share with you today. So to start with resilience and what actually that means. Of course, resilience is actually our ability to recover when we fail, to recover after a mistake, to being able to deal with all of the negative emotions and frustration that comes with failure. So this is what resilience is all about. But not only. Actually, resilience is something that sounds really maybe, easy for us as adults to understand, but it's something that juniors are struggling with for a variety of objective factors. So first of all, from a neuroscientific perspective, their prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain that is responsible for decision-making, for emotional control, for impulse control, this area of the brain will not be fully developed until the mid-20s of those juniors. So it's still under construction. And so they literally don't have the same cognitive ability to deal with their emotions as adults have. And so on top of that, that area, the prefrontal cortex, is also responsible for things like self-image, like belonging. So stuff that are related to the social life of these children. And I don't have to say how social media impacts all of that, but basically this generation of juniors is so much more sensitive to external validation than the previous ones for a variety of reasons. And if you didn't watch the brilliant movie by Netflix, Adolescence, please go and watch it. This is the story of our lives that we have right now with children. So those are external factors that we cannot influence, but also there are some other factors that are within our control, but this is the environment that we create and the fact that we have or we don't have proper mental coaching. So in terms of environment, this is literally the communication and the whole environment that we create around our children. If it's too protective or too critical, again, it impacts negatively the resilience of the children. And of course, the lack of proper mental coaching. We literally don't give children the tools to deal with all of those emotions. So those are the factors that influence them. But because tennis is a sparring game, and this is not a one-way conversation, I would love to invite you now to join the conversation and see on the right side of your screen, let me real quick activate those. We have a few questions because we want to know who is with us tonight. So first of all, I would like to know how many coaches we have, how many parents, and also I have some other questions that will help me understand what's the audience. So, for example, how confident do you feel in your ability to become a mentor of your child in the area of mental coaching? Do you feel like you can be in that role Do you know what are the tools? What's the knowledge? What's the approach? And also, I'm curious to know whether you already have some kind of a mental coaching program or a tool integrated in your training process. Do you work with a mental coach? Do you have any other experts in the club? Do you work individually? Do you work in groups? So please have a look and let us know what we have, because that's really interesting. I know that we expect more parents tonight than coaches, but maybe that's not exactly like that. Okay, so yes, we have 92% parents. That's good. And some of you have some confidence in performing mental coaching and your ability to do that. Some others, not exactly. But what I see, and that's actually probably the reason why we have this big crowd tonight, is that the majority of the audience, you still don't have any mental coaching integrated in the training process. That is okay. We will actually provide some amazing support for you. Okay, I'm going to go back real quick to the slides. So speaking about those elements that influence negatively the resilience of the players, we have influence on two of those: what kind of environment we're going to build and what kind of mental coaching we will provide. But when we talk about the environment we're going to build for these children, first we need to understand better our own children. And I'm going to offer you a paradigm invented by, so talking about environment, I'm going to invite you to take a look at the paradigm invented by Thomas Boyce. So he was a pediatrician and neuroscience researcher. And so in the early 2000s, he developed this concept. It's called the Orchid and Dandelion children concept. So he basically discovered that in his research on a group of children. And he discovered that you can divide those children in two groups based on their biological sensitivity. So this is 100% pure science, and this is something related to the way that your children are biologically wired. So to put it very simply, dandelion children, or the dandelion flower, they flourish in almost any condition. So they are not so sensitive to external environments, external physical environments and external social environments. So they will be less sensitive to critique or to positive feedback. They'll be less sensitive to sounds and anything in their physical environment. On the other hand, the orchid child, they will be way more sensitive to everything that is said and done within their environment. And so this concept just invites us to think about our children in those two ways and how this is related to resilience. Both dandelion and orchid children can be resilient and are resilient, but they need a different environment. The orchid children will not flourish in very aggressive and highly motivating and really pushy environment. On the other hand, dandelion children may flourish in that kind of environment. But this is something that we need to be aware of in order to adapt our approach and our tone of voice even sometimes to that. And so again, real quick, interaction. This is a sparring. So take a look again on the right side of your screen and let me know if your children are more into which profile are more of that. I know that probably coaches, you work with a lot of children, so probably you have both dandelion and orchid, but I'm curious to know what kind of percentage we have for the rest of the group. Now, of course, there is an official statistics on that, and about 70% are dandelion and 30% are orchid, but that's relative, and I think that it will change also with different generations that come. But yeah, so basically this concept, this framework will allow us to think not in terms of generic approach that we all may have in the club, but to adapt our strategy. I'm talking to you, my dear coaches, to adapt our communication strategies for children that will not accept really harsh and pushy feedback, and just to know what kind of children we have with us. So you have also information about this concept in the workbook that we will provide for you after this workshop. So please have a look. Also, I highly encourage you to read the book that Mr. Joyce made, but yes. And then I know that you already probably have an idea whether you create an overprotective or an overcritical environment. So if you are from those parents that constantly give instructions, from the sidelines. You are very actively involved in the training process. You are controlling, and you are even trying to interfere with coach's approach. Probably you are creating an overprotective environment, preventing your children from taking risks and taking, independently to take some initiative. On the other hand, if you are too criticizing and too focused on errors, if you compare your children with other teammates, or if you show disappointment after a match or a tournament, then probably you are overcritical. So the balance is somewhere in between. And now to help you to understand what we need to do, you just have to read the green, the green words on the slide. If you want to balance your environment that you create, you have to balance your mindset. You as an adult, you have to think differently in terms of how you approach results, mistakes, and how you do all of that. So instead of focusing only on results, try to praise effort. Try to acknowledge progress. In order to dramatize mistakes, try to use them as an example and a source for growth. So normalize mistakes. If you want to create a more balanced environment, you need to let go of control and be okay and encourage independence, risk-taking of your children. But also last, but the most important of those 4 elements, you need to be emotionally intelligent and you need to manage your emotions, because children are like mirrors. The way you feel about them is the way they feel about themselves. And I'm going to say that once again because it's really important. The way you feel about them and the way you communicate to them is the way they feel about themselves. So if you are disappointed, angry, and frustrated, they will be disappointed, angry, and frustrated with themselves. So with everything starts with the way you interpret a certain situation. And so in order for you to have a little bit of reflection on what kind of environment you create, in the workbook that is provided after the workshop, you'll be able to have that self-reflection exercise where you can see in more details what kind of environment you create and where is the balance in those examples and in those situations. So now we talk about we have certain zones of control and some stuff that we cannot influence. So we can't influence biology, we can't influence the social environment of our children, but we can influence the environment and we can also influence the proper mental coaching that we provide to those children. And now when we talk about the proper mental coaching, when we created Vodar and we started talking with dozens of parents and coaches and players, at some point we realized that we need to build a whole system around that. And as we love to say, it takes a village to raise a tennis player. And it takes enormous amount of united effort between all the adults involved in that system so that we can provide the best support to those children. So this is how we came up with the concept for Vodar Mind Labs. So this is something that we will introduce by the end of this workshop. But basically the idea is to create this hub where parents and coaches can have access to both knowledge, practical tools, and possibility to talk to each other on the topic of mental coaching, and also with the help of mentors from our side, of course. But yeah, the whole concept behind Vodar Mind Labs is the fact that we need to build that support system around children in order for them to grow and to flourish. And so, without further ado, thinking about systems, we think about systematic approach in everything we do. And so I'm going to give the floor now to Radinella to tell you how we think about resilience in a system.
Yeah, so thanks, Carrie. As Carrie said, we are talking about systems. So resilience is not a single skill. It's a structured combination of mental, emotional, and behavioral habits that help these young athletes recover from these, setbacks, regulate pressure, maintain focus through adversity. And in junior tennis, where players face like fierce, constant competition, high expectations, emotional fluctuations, resilience must be developed separately through integrated routines and clear support structures. So the following framework that you're seeing on your screens right now introduces a four-pillar system for building resilience in players aged 10 to 17. So we are talking about stress recovery routine, pre and post-match routines, athlete coach and athlete parent codes, and athlete's personal code. And I want to start with the stress recovery routine, the next slide, because the foundation of resiliency is recovery. So a structured stress recovery routine teaches athletes to recognize tension, to release it, and to return to balance after emotionally charged situations such as tough losses or intense training sessions. We all been there as parents, as coaches. We know how difficult it is for the children to recover after these tough situations. So the process includes 5 single steps. Step away and decompress. This is the first thing. Transition out of competition mode with a short walk or quiet time. As simple as that. After that, body grounding. So gentle stretches and breathing to release physical tension. After that, controlled breathing means focused breathing. 4 seconds inhale, 6 seconds exhale. Repeat it 5 to 7 times. After that, emotional labeling and acceptance, recognizing feelings without judgment. I am frustrated, and that's okay. And finally, mental reframe, shifting from outcome to grow. Now, I want to speak about it in a minute. I'm just highlighting here that the appropriate question here should be, what did I handle well today despite the stress? But I want to talk about that in a few minutes. So this routine conditions emotional regulation and self-awareness, which are basically the essential elements of mental endurance. Now, the next thing, pre and post-match routines. Now we know that the biggest level of stress are observed before major tournaments, right? So I would strongly encourage you, give the player a simple daily mental homework for the final 5 to 7 days prior a tournament. It could be something like each night, have them visualize 5 minutes of playing a great match. Remind them to include details. They need to feel confident. They need to feel happy in this image. After that, each morning, have them read their goals, their vision statements, because this keeps their mindset aligned. Encourage also short journaling. For example, at the end of each day, they can write one thing they did well during practice and one thing to improve tomorrow. And this is a reflection habit that builds self-awareness. And finally, something obvious, but I need to share this, of course, maintain normal bedtime and nutrition. Perhaps the coach or the parent can provide with a generic tournament week tips like eating well, sleeping well, since physical well-being affects mental state. It could be something simple like not skipping breakfast on the tournament day to avoid energy crashes. The next thing, please prepare a pre-match checklist. Work with the player to prepare this pre-match checklist, and they can use this on the tournament day. It can be a small index card, and they can put it in their tennis bag. And depending on the age, it could be different, but I've prepared something for like 10, 11 to 14 years old. It's something simple, but of course you can extend this. For example, pack gear like rackets, snacks, lucky charm if they have, whatever. They should do this the night before prior to the tournament if possible, of course. Warm up properly, dynamic stretches, short jog, mini tennis hits. They can list few warm-up exercises and write them down. Mental check. Take 5 deep breaths before going on court. Visualize one good rally. Remind myself of my cue words and phrases. It's extremely important for them to have cue words and phrases like have fun, fight for every point. Whatever it is, they need to write this down. Game plan reminders. Hit high top spin to backhand. Any simple tactic you've discussed, write this down. Between routine points, after each point, breathe and say next point, whatever it is. And finally, enjoy. I know it sounds simple, but they need to write this down because the most important thing, especially for junior players, is to remember that playing tennis means having fun, right? And we as parents, as coaches, as mentors, should nurture this love for the game constantly because sometimes we are forgetting about that, and this is extremely important for junior players. After that, post-match routines. Now you have a quick reset routine post-match, 10 minutes in total. You can find this in the workbook, but we don't have enough time to share to focus on this right now. And I want to focus on the post-match debrief because it is connected with the learning mindset, and very often it is skipped for some reason. So after each match in the tournament, win or lose, doesn't matter, the coach or the parent, please do a short debrief focusing on lessons and positives. Like, ask questions like, where was there any moment you felt nervous or lost focus? What did you do then? Praise any use of mental techniques. For example, I loved how you took time when serving at 5-5. It was very composed. If the player struggled mentally during the match, please do not scold. Instead, remind and discuss them how it's normal and brainstorm what to try next. Basically, reinforce the idea that every match is a learning experience. And this reflection helps refine their mental skills moving forward. And check out the quick reset routine. It's really working. The next thing that I want to share, you can see on your screens right now, it's an on-court exercise called Resilience in the Face of Adversity. Now, you can find these exercises in our app, which are part of the whole methodology that Kari shared so far. And these are tennis drills that are 100% practical with an additional layer of mental added into them. And basically in the app, you're going to find a whole methodology that covers the full spectrum of mental skills required for building mental toughness overall. And every module represents a specific mental competence, such as concentration, focus, emotional control, arousal control. And in these modules, you're going to find 4 on-court exercises that looks like this, and they're really simple and easy to implement because you are going to find a description. It is written as a procedure, step 1, step 2, step 3, and you're going to find this cool 3D video that represents the content, and you can either watch the video or you can read the text, or both, of course, and you can implement it with ease into your regular tennis routine. Basically, you have a full neuroscience-based methodology of mental coaching that you can implement immediately into your regular tennis routines, whether you're a coach or a parent who practices tennis and plays with their children. Now, the next thing is athlete coach and athlete parent code. Now, as Kari said, resilience thrives in a supportive environment. So coaches and parents are the emotional mirrors of the athlete, and clear behavioral codes ensure aligned communication and consistent feedback. And for the athlete coach code, it could be the following. The coach provides, as we said, a calm, structured environment focused on effort and learning, not outcomes. And I said that I want to talk about this a few minutes ago. Now, when we are talking about goal setting, please focus on process-oriented goals versus result-oriented goals. Result-oriented goal means winning the match. Okay? Process-oriented goal means get 8 out of 10 serves during my matches, or stay positive even if I lose point. Such goals channel their concentration and foster a growth mindset. So extremely important. The next thing, feedback follows the positive, constructive, positive method, or the so-called sandwich method. For example, great hustle in that drill. Now try to follow more on your forehand. You're getting the hang of it. So this style ensures that the player hears what they did well, learns what to fix or to improve, I would say, and stays motivated. So again, emphasize effort over results in the feedback. And finally, the coach models emotional control and reinforces reflection after both win and losses. And the athlete parent code. Parents, please separate results from emotional support. Now, no technical feedback during or immediately after matches. Instead, emphasize on effort, attitude, and again, enjoyment of the game, of the sport. I love how hard you competed today. Okay, so together these codes create emotional stability and reinforce self-belief. And these are critical components of resilience. And the final thing, the final element of this system is athlete's personal code. Now, resilient players operate by a personal set of principles that guide their behavior under pressure. And coaches and parents can help them, and I would say should help them, define this code early in their development. And a simple framework should be regarding the mindset. I compete with courage and I learn from my match, from every match. Behavior. I control my reactions, not my results. Again, process-oriented versus result-oriented. Commitment. I give full effort in every practice and match. And finally, respect. I treat opponents, coaches, and parents with fairness. And having this personal code builds accountability and consistency, and players learns how to self-regulate, which is extremely important skill. And I can say that I can't see this in some adults, because this should be implemented early on in order to be able to self-regulate as adults. And in conclusion, I would say that building resilience really is a system, not isolated interventions here and there. And when we combine all these elements, like the stress recovery routine, the pre and the post-match routines, the behavioral codes, when they're aligned, young athletes develop this self-awareness, this flexibility and confidence. And these are the true foundations, I would say, for long-term success, both on and off the court. So basically, this is in a nutshell. You can find everything in the workbook, written in details. I strongly encourage you to do that. And I'm handing over now the conversation to Carrie.
Thank you, Radi. Yeah, as Radi mentioned, we have all of those practical tools and exercises and different examples that we have for you in the workbook. But actually, we thought that, again, thinking about mental coaching as a system, we need to do it in a very structured way, in a very holistic way, and to really create that supportive system, first of all, for the coaches and the players, for the coaches and the parents, sorry, so that they can then provide this support and this encouragement to the athletes, because otherwise it's not going to happen. It's impossible. So this is what Vodar Mind Labs is all about. And that's really for the first time introducing for the community of Tennis Europe this whole concept, because we realized while we're developing the mobile app that you just saw, that actually having only a mobile app, it's not enough. We need to be able to connect, and we need to be able to have this dedicated space for mental coaching where we can all join forces and basically exchange knowledge. So we have 2 levels for that membership, for that community. So the first one, we have WhatsApp chat. Please scan that QR code, because you will immediately get access to our chat group. This is entirely free. We just share some practical tools there, some advice, but we also are able to answer some specific questions that you might have. So take a moment now and scan that QR code, because you will directly enter a space with, I don't know, we have probably people from more than 20 countries already in the chat. But this is where we will also share the resources from the workshop today. Later, actually, this evening, we will post it in the chat. But also, this is one very quick, way for you to ask questions, get feedback, get some ideas, meet new and cool people. So this is one option. And then the second option is our Pro membership. So if you go on our website and if you check the possibilities to join Vodar platform, you will see the Pro membership. And so what is included in that Pro membership? You basically get, first of all, 12 months access to the mobile app that we have. The mobile app, as Radinella mentioned, is a structured program with 12 modules covering different mental skills, with on and off court drills that can be implemented in the training process, but also can be performed from the parents in collaboration with coaches. It's a pretty unique training program, I would say, because it was created especially for us, for Vodar, and it's a combination between physical and mental training, and it's a result of the work of mental coaches with over 2 decades of experience in that area. So the content is really, really amazing. But also, it is designed in a way that it doesn't require any background in sports psychology. The exercises are simple and they are structured in a way so you basically follow steps and you have all the instructions. You can't make a mistake, literally. But then we also made this online community called Vodar Mind Labs, which is also another space where we have workshops like the one that we have right now, monthly workshops. And we also have additional resources and tools and templates, so stuff that you can use with your children, adapted to different age, to different problems or challenges that we have with children, and all sorts of useful information, everything based on neuroscience, developmental psychology, and proven in real life. No fluffy stuff that are, pop psychology. Everything is proven either by practice or by science. And we also, this space is a possibility for you to share success stories, to just create that positive environment where parents and coaches can share their success. And last but not least, in Vodar Mind Labs, you'll be able to have individual consultations with us. Literally, if you join the platform tomorrow, you can book a 30-minute session with me or with Radinella, where we talk only for the challenges and specifics of your children. So everyone can have an individual plan for development, again, based on our resources and our methodology, and can regularly receive support to address any challenges, any questions. So this is one pretty unique space where we focus on how to raise resilient juniors, but also how to do it in a very healthy and very scientifically based way. So we just encourage and ensure the best possible practices. Now, this is what is included in our Pro membership. And now, thanks to Tennis Europe and this lovely partnership, for the people from this webinar, we also have a 50% off this program. So if you scan the code, you can directly go to the website and see this Pro membership and how much it will cost for you. The only thing I can say is that we tried to do the best price for you, because literally you get a 12 months program with everything you need on the price of having 2 or 3 individual mental coaching sessions with an expert, no matter what country you are. This is at least what our research says. So we wanted to make it as affordable as possible, because we believe that our mission as a company goes way beyond money. We want to create this community and this system for the future generation of athletes, basically. And it's not only the affordable price that we have, but we also wanted to make it fully, absolutely risk-free for you and for your money. So we have a full refund policy. Basically, you can join the platform, you can see the app, and you can join the community. You can have your first sessions. You can see for about 2 weeks what this is all about. And if that's not something that will help you and your children to progress, you can just send us a quick message. You'll get a full refund, no questions asked. This is a win-win policy that we have, because first of all, we would like to offer you the best possible resources, but we know that this is a topic that might be a little bit challenging also, that our approach might not be something that will serve you. It's totally fine. We want to work with parents and coaches who are really, ambitious to do that mental coaching integration into their training. And for both sides, I think that's the safe option. So you can take a look at the website and see eventually if you want to join that. So let's go. Last but not least, we believe in Vodar that children really carry stardust in their hearts, and it's our most biggest and greatest responsibility as adults to ensure that we protect that cosmic spark, and it unfolds in a brilliant life, regardless whether this will be a professional athlete's life or the life of an entrepreneur, an artist, whatever your children decide to do further in life. So this is the reason why we decided to create Vodar in the first place. And this is a community that if you decide to join, we will be more than happy to welcome you, because with this belief in our hearts, we create everything we do. And so with this, I think we are ready to switch to some Q&A session. I'm going to leave this on the screen just in case you want to scan that now, but we can switch to Q&A, and I'm going to real quick jump here in my admin panel. So please feel free to ask anything you want to ask us. Q&A. Okay. So now we see, what if the errors are behavioral mistakes? Crying, shouting, should we normalize? Okay. This is the first question that we see. Thank you very much for that question. I suggest actually to use this opportunity to share 2 different perspectives. I can share my perspective, and then Radi also can share her perspective, if that's okay. So my perspective on that would be behavioral mistakes, crying and shouting. Should we normalize that? I think that actually your main role as an adult is to teach perspective. So to teach how these reactions can be seen in a different way. So for example, the other day I had one of my closest friends. She had this challenge with her child, and her son started screaming and yelling, and she just looked at him and said, in how many situations screaming and crying can really solve the problem? And really giving that perspective was something that for that particular child, it switched off completely the whole situation. It was like, okay, nothing probably will change. So trying to activate the rational thinking with just a simple question in a normal tone can provoke the child to change the perspective. That's what I would say to that.
Okay, so I would ask in this situation, what is the age of the child, in order to answer to that question properly, because it depends on the age range. So because I don't see for some reason the chat at the moment. If the parent answers, please Carrie share the we can't
Yeah,
see.
I'm gonna check. We will have a couple of seconds before that person to answer, probably in the chat, because it's streaming. So we're gonna wait for a little bit, and I'm gonna
Okay,
send.
in the meantime, I would share the specific challenges faced by players between, I would say, 10 and 14. So performance anxiety is the first one. This is the fear of failure or disappointing coaches and parents. The second one is emotional regulation. So this is difficulty managing emotions such as frustration, excitement, and disappointment. Concentration issues, struggling to maintain consistent focus throughout matches, and also external pressure. So stress stemming from expectations set by coaches, parents, and peers. So it depends on the age range. I wouldn't say that we should normalize, but we should acknowledge the emotion, and we should reframe after that the emotion. So we should really acknowledge and say, okay, it is not normalizing the emotion, but it is acknowledging the emotion, which is different. And after that, we should reframe as parents and as coaches and as mentors. We should show children, we should show them, and we should guide them through the right way of reacting in such a situation. And we could show this through our own reaction, but for sure first acknowledge the emotion. And again, my answer depends a lot on the age of the child, but in a nutshell, this would be my answer in this situation. And when my child cries or shouts, I'm just calm. I'm just looking at him for a few seconds just to make him calm. And after that, I'm saying, okay, I understand you. I acknowledge that something's going on. Let's talk. But I'm trying to reframe his attitude by him mirroring me in a calm state.
Yeah. By the way, the answer of the question was that the child is 11 years old. So I think
Yes,
that
so
yeah,
it's normal in this case.
We're gonna-
It depends on how often this happens, but yeah, it's normal because they have difficulties regulating their emotions.
Yeah. We're going to continue with another interesting question. So, do you plan to translate your app in other languages? Yes, we do. Actually, the French version is the second language that will appear on the app. Right now, everything is in English, but then from there on, we can easily translate to Spanish, another interesting and big language for us. So, to answer that real quick, another one, for which age range your methodology works best? So, in the first version of the app, we have exercises that are suitable for players between 9 and 17, with little adaptation here and there that you see in the instruction of the exercise. But also in Vodar Mind Labs, in this online community that we invite you to join, we will also provide tools that are more specific and more targeted to certain age. So this is to answer that one. Then another question, how to teach players to balance the anger on court, like not to get carried away, but to keep the fire alive to do better. That's a good one. How to teach players to balance the anger on court, like not to get carried away, but to keep the fire alive to do better. So this is basically, for me, from what I understand from that question. So how to keep the positive fuel that anger gives you, like Nola does in a brilliant way. He is like the ultimate king of that. But how to keep that fuel without the negative aspect of that. So it's a very, very interesting balance and a very tough one to achieve, even for adults, because anger, from a neuroscientific perspective, is a very intense emotion. So the biochemistry in your body, in the children's body, is pretty intense in that moment. So to be able to navigate that, it will be really challenging, and it has to have a certain practice. So first of all, you can't practice that without the real situation of something that makes the child angry. So that's what makes it difficult. But then you can have a strategy before the match. So let's say, for example, the first one is to teach the children to recognize this moment and to say out loud to themselves, okay, I'm angry now, I'm going to use that in the best possible way, and I'm not going to let that, destroy me. I'm going to use that way in the best possible way. I'm going to use it. And so if you teach children to, first of all, recognize this intense emotion and then talk to themselves, because when they talk, they activate the prefrontal cortex. This is, again, pure science. Those are the areas where the communication centers of the brain are. So when you teach the children to talk to themselves, you literally teach them to switch from their from their amygdala, to their prefrontal cortex, to a more rational approach. So if you have a sentence they can tell to themselves, just try to do that. But yeah, it's challenging because you cannot really imitate very intense anger unless you make your child angry on purpose, which we don't recommend. But yeah, that would be my answer.
Okay, so I wanna add something here. Basically, anger is related to this module in our app, which is about relaxation and arousal control. So nerves can hit everyone, and especially if you're talking about nerves at big tournaments, it is 100% sure that they can be angry, they can be nervous, whatever. So teaching them basic relaxation techniques will help them manage the anger and the stress. Now, depending on the age, again, of the player, you can use different techniques. However, standard adult methods like lengthy progressive muscle relaxation, scripts, whatever, may not hold a child's attention. So instead, you can use physical analogies and play to convey the idea of relaxation versus tension. For example, if you're a coach or if you're a parent, you can demonstrate that with a fun analogy. Show there is something really, really funny, but it actually works. You can show them the difference between a limp cooked spaghetti noodle and a stuffed uncooked spaghetti stick. And this illustrates a relaxed muscle vs tense muscle. And have the kids to pretend being this cooked spaghetti. And immediately they become loose, and they let go of the anger. And then uncooked spaghetti, which is like tight, rigid, so they feel the contrast. And there are a lot of techniques that are related to breathing, but basic relaxation techniques, breathing techniques, will help them a lot with the stress and with the anger, for sure.
Awesome. So we continue with questions. 14-year-old girl feels discouraged after being moved to a lower group despite performing at a higher level according to other squad coach. How should a parent support her? So 14-year-old feels discouraged after being moved to a lower group. Again, teaching mindset is all about teaching perspective. So it's not the situation that will determine how the children will feel, it's the perspective to that situation that will determine how the child will feel. So again, you can initiate a conversation, two-side conversation, that first of all, you acknowledge all the emotions that come with that situation, and you try to give space and to build the environment for those emotions. And then when the child is like finished with sharing about the emotion, we can move the conversation to a more rational thinking and brainstorming. How this can be actually a trampoline for your further development. This is a question that teaches perspective. How can you use the situation in the best possible way for you? This teaches perspective. And so finding those empowering questions that will reframe the whole situation is what will change the situation. So if you think and ask questions that are focused on what are the benefits, what's the hidden resource, what we can do together to make it work, this is how you teach children also to do that. If they remain in that emotion, you can just say, okay, I see that that emotion is very intense right now. Maybe we can have a conversation tomorrow about it. But for me as a parent, the most important thing would be to give you the best support and to give you another perspective to that situation, because I know that you can have real benefit from that situation. If you as a parent tell to the child, okay, I know that you can find a better way, this is something that already gives, a little bit of encouragement to the children. So maybe not today, but tomorrow they'll find a different and better perspective.
Yeah, and we need to teach our kids to stay motivated even if they lose. And this is some kind of a loss for her, I suppose. So this is also extremely important because they're going to lose a lot. They're going to lose matches, they're going to lose tournaments, they're going to lose game sets. So teaching them stay motivated during losses, it's extremely important. And Kari is also extremely right here, because it's all about the perspective and the right conversation with the parent, and they need to feel supported. They need to feel supported in their pain. They need to feel supported in their frustration. They need to feel supported in their disappointment. And after the emotion goes, after that, we can sit down and we can talk rationally like adults. But before that, just emotional support and showing them that they're loved and they're understood.
Yes, definitely. Okay, I'm going to choose another 2 or 3 questions, maybe maximum. Let's see. So we have how to help as a parent if the training performance is excellent, but in a tournament situation, far not that good, although she is the better than the opponent. So how to help as a parent in the training performance is excellent, but in tournament situations is different. Yes, actually, that's one very big question that we also discuss in the community, because those are just 2 different environments, because one is like rehearsal kind of, and the other one is the real deal. And in our minds, we interpret those 2 situations differently. So again, pure science and neuroscience here. When we have to go on stage, like the tournament is as a form of stage, we can think about it. I mean, that whole, that whole excitement and fear and sometimes anxiety that we have about that is actually this is a brain activity that is very similar. It's maybe surprising, but this is very similar to the state where when we have a very good surprise that we are looking forward to. So this very same excitement and that very same biochemistry is actually almost identical. So the thing is that both as adults but also for children, the thing is to think about this situation, to go on stage, as something that we look forward to. Because if we look forward to that excitement, that anxiety, that all of those things actually slightly switch to a positive anxiety, a positive excitement, and positive, feeling of waiting for something good to happen. So the next time when your kid has to go from training mode to tournament mode, you can just simply say, isn't it amazing that you're going to go now on the tournament, and you can show everything that you learned and you can demonstrate how good you are. And only by just reframing again this one and say, okay, we are actually excited about that. We are not worried, we are excited. And this is something pleasurable. Again, this is a perspective that we teach to our children, but also this is something that can be addressed during the training process. So the more on stage situations we have, the less we fear from those situations, because another thing happens in the brain is called habituation. So if you have one tournament per year, that's a pretty unique and new experience for your brain. So probably you'll be much more anxious and much more stressed. But if you have 10, 20, 30 tournaments 30 is a bit too much, but yeah, 10, 20 tournaments per year, it's something that you don't really, you don't feel it. Or, that's how you can address that. So create situations that are on stage, even in training process.
I would say that this situation is very often related to negative self-talk and negative attitude. So kids very often, when they're playing at a tournament or when they're in action, they start talking negatively to themselves. So one of the mental techniques that is extremely important is to teach these kids to the appropriate self-talk and positive attitude. Because by externalizing thoughts and emotions, kids start recognizing how negative self-talk hurts their game. And parents can help them practice replacing negative thoughts with positive or neutral ones. This is a technique called thought stopping. It could be like role playing is useful here. The parent can present a challenging scenario, for example, down 0-40 on serve or after double faulting, and ask the player to act out both a negative reaction and then a positive coping reaction. And this makes learning active and even fun, and encourage the player to come up with a couple of personal cue words or phrases they can say during matches. Simple phrases like "let's go," "I've got this," or a reminder like "bounce and breathe." And these become their mental anchors to stay focused and to stay present and to perform at the level they have been performing during practices. So I would say self-talk and positive attitude, a really good mental technique that you should implement in your children's practices in terms of mental coaching, I mean.
Okay, so we take one last question, and then we have just few important things then to share on the slides with you. So, how can you be the best parent and coach at the same time if your child is moving away from you in his adolescent time? He does not want to follow your advice as much as in earlier periods. Thank you so much for that question. I would actually say that it's a very good thing that your children do not follow your advice when they grow up, because this is a clear indicator that you actually did a great job. You empowered your children to become independent, and to develop that self-regulation, self-reflection, and ability to take decisions for their own lives. So that's actually a good thing. I like to see parents as leaders, and the best thing that a leader can do is to become irrelevant. Like, the leader should just get out of the way. And the best way for us to support our children is to make it so that at some point they don't need us. Because if they keep needing us in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, is that a good parenting or not? So actually, I strongly encourage even, how to say, a more freedom first and independence first approach in raising children. The sooner you give them more responsibilities and more independence, the better they grow as individuals and they develop. So I think that you did a great job actually with that, and it's a good sign.
Yeah, I totally agree on this.
Yes. Okay. So lovely people. We have just a few more important things to tell you. This is the promotion. Someone asked actually, what's the final price for the program? So please take a look at the website. If you have any questions, by the way, don't hesitate to contact us. So either in WhatsApp or those are our emails. You can also join us on Instagram. The priority for this workshop for our team was to give you a glimpse on what we have as resources, what is our philosophy, and what is the support that you can take. Because I really am 100% confident that parents and coaches need more support now than any other time previously in history of tennis, because the external world, the society and the whole world around us changes so quickly. And we don't live in a stable environment. We have to address numerous more challenges to social media, related to social media, to technology, to all sorts of things that actually don't really help our children to grow as mentally healthy, strong, and resilient. So please contact us, use us. I'm saying that in a way, because we are full of resources. We are full of love for this whole process of tennis coaching, and we are generous with everything we have. We wanted to give it to you so you can use it with your children, and we managed to find plenty of ways to do that. So please join our community. Stay tuned for other updates from Tennis Europe. Maybe we'll organize also other workshops with them. But in general, make sure that you are part of this lovely community, because this is an investment in the future of these children. So thank you so much for that.
Yes, and thank you for allocating time for this webinar. And again, I want to underline that having you here and being so many means that this topic is really, really important. And I'm really happy to see that, because raising mentally tough and mentally healthy children is the most important thing. And we have this obligation, as Carrie said, to do our best and to support them in the best possible way. And I think this is the way to do that, especially when we are gathered in a community. We can share some thoughts, we can share some techniques, we can share everything from our own experience. And this is the way to become strong and to become really focused on that important topic, being good parents and be good coaches for these children. So thank you one more time, and hope to see you in the community and in the WhatsApp group. It's already live, and a lot of people are asking questions and are exchanging some ideas. So yeah, let's keep with this tradition. Let's make it a tradition, and see you soon.
Thank you so much. Yes, we're going to stay a little bit longer in the webinar so that the final words are transmitted through space and time technology.
For those who haven't been here and are asking already for recording, yes.
Yes, and actually I'll use the final second to answer. You mentioned you will provide a workbook. Yes, we will. Please check your emails. We will also send it to our chat group. So check your spam in case that you don't receive anything. So we will send a follow-up email tonight, and we will send another one tomorrow morning using different systems to make sure that we reach you, because in this tech era, we don't exist if we don't reach you digitally. So yeah, thank you so much to everyone, and thank you for your kind words in the comments. We really appreciate it.